If anyone was a real monster, come and meet John David Geese Cannon and learn what he did to Sharon Major. Perhaps then people who plead mitigation for such killers will change their minds. Better still, it may open some blinkered eyes, because this might have happened to you. Getting to interview Sharon was no easy task, for she knew that I was writing a definitive book about Cannon and that he was writing to me. So she was rightly nervous and trembling from head to foot when eventually, after several months of correspondence bonding throughout 1992, we had a waterfront lunch in Bristol. Mostly women and some men have suffered terribly at the hands of sex-crazed monsters, only to have had their once peaceful and decent lives turned upside down and inside out, with the physical and mental trauma quite often lasting for the remainder of their lives. Therefore, thank you, Sharon, because thousands of women and men will read your story and hopefully heed your words. God bless you, from all of us too. Of Sharon, I'd say about 5 feet 5 inches tall, slim, not petite, smartly dressed, longish fair hair framing an open, friendly face. Indeed, I will go as far as to say she was vivacious and very attractive, so I could see immediately why the smooth-talking, bullshitting Billy liar John Cannon took a fancy to her way back in 1980, when she had just turned 32, for that's when her tragic story began. Cannon's full life story of crime, his narrative stretching way back to his formative years, can be found in my book Prime Suspect, and there is quite a bit about him on the internet. However, by the end of 1979, he had effectively deserted his wife and daughter. Then, aged 26, a lower-ranking car salesman and a heavy social drinker, he considered himself to be God's gift to any young woman. But his drinking, supported by a few thefts, had brought him spiralling downhill into alcoholism and thus down on his uppers. He, John, was the best-looking man I'd ever met, and immediately I had a physical attraction towards him. We laughed and joked and agreed to meet up after work. Sharon Major, to the author. On Valentine's Day in February 1980, Cannon thought his fortunes had changed for the better when he strolled nonchalantly into a Sutton Coldfield off-licence on the pretext of buying a case of wine. A case of wine my foot, for he didn't have a pot to piss in. Knowing Cannon's well-established modus operandi, M.O., I strongly suspect that he had earlier noticed Sharon when passing by the shop where she worked, had taken a liking to her, and then used this not unique ploy to chat her up. After they'd hit it off using another of his seduction techniques, he followed up by sending Sharon roses at the shop, and she was won over by his charm. She was smitten. The roses? Silly me, yes. I omitted to say that he had got the money for the flowers by robbing a service station a few days beforehand. It sounds a bit of a 50 Shades of Greyish opener, does it not? Nevertheless, during their first date, Sharon explained to John that she was married with 2 children and on the verge of separating from her husband, although they still continued to share the same house with hubby, soon to move out.